Learn how to properly initialize and execute a background network request. In this example, we are going to be looking at how you can make a background network request using the open and send method of the XML HTTP request object. Uh, Creating an Ajax request is a two-step process. It's much more like you are mailing a letter. So first you have to address the envelope and then choose how it will be delivered. So that is what the open method does. And secondly, you have to drop it in the mailbox. So it actually travels to the destination. So that is what the send method does. So together they allow your letter or your information to reach its destination. Now, these concepts together allow JavaScript to reach out to a server and fetch data without interrupting the user or block the user experience on a web page. So let's look at the example of how you can combine two-step process of open and send in order to fetch the content or from a server or from a file. So let's move into the script part of our boilerplate code, and inside the script part, the first thing to do is I want to make a function and I want to call that function. Uh, you can name it anything, but in my own case, let me just call it open request like this. So inside this function, then let me add a variable and call it xHTTP, which is going to call the new XML request object for me. So once I have this store inside my variable, then I can call my variable xHTTP dot load xHTTP dot unload rather. So the property here, it's unload. You can see it. So unload equals to a function. And inside this function, so I want to pick the ID of the elements that I want to modify and replace its content. So in my own case, I'll use the document.getElement by ID to target the ID of the empty div that we have here, which is where we want a change or a replacement of content. So using the now.html to modify it, and then I can use the this keyword dot response text. The response text is a property. You can see the read-only XML HTTP request property response text return the text received from the server following a request being sent. So this is what I want to use here. So you call it this way, and what we have just did here is that we've been able to set up how the process of a request can be done using Ajax. So this way we have created an open method for our Ajax to listen to changes on the server or on our request. So therefore I can just go ahead and call on this HTTP method that we have and call the open method directly and pass our HTTP method inside it. So we want to use get in order to get what we have. And let's say we have a file that is called ajax info.txt. So you can just go ahead and then xhttp and send this. So what we basically have is that, you see, this part of our code is what creates the connection. So once the connection has been established, then it's time for us to send it. So to open it. So this open method is what is responsible for opening the connection. And once that connection has been opened, then you can use the send method in order to send your request to the server in order to retrieve information. So now that we're done from the script tag, we need a way to be able to see what we have done in the script tag. So let's use a button in order to demonstrate the output. So I will add a button here and I'll just give it, let me say something like click me. Yeah. So let me give you this text, click me. And this button is going to have an ID of BTN, which I already have styled. and I'm going to add an on-click property and pass in my function open request. And if I go ahead and click this, what do you think is going to happen? Think for a second. Okay, let's find out. And now you can see this is simply indicating that this part does not exist. And actually, I have that file, but in order to get it right, I need to prefix it with a forward slash. So you can see the content of my Ajax info.txs. So it's just a text file that I put inside the root folder. So this is my folder and this is the file. It's inside the root folder. So I was able to easily navigate to it. So and to prove this is the file, let me put something else. This is a page to be fetched from the server. And now let me go ahead and click this. You can see this is a page to be fetched from the server, which means that we are actually hitting the rights file, and you can change it if you don't want. I have another one, fetch info. So I can as well switch to this and say fetch info. I'm not sure if there's any content inside it, but I'm just saying that whatever the name of your file, oh, there's content. So whatever the name of your file, you can easily call it this way. And if it is a URL, you can pass it in this place as well with your HTTP method. And JavaScript will just run silently to go and get the content of what you make your request for in order to return it to you. So this example, when you click the uh when you click on the click me button, JavaScript initialized a request that targets a server file named the fetch info.txt. So the request is fired off the network, and as soon as the server sends back the file text, the original instruction in our div are replaced with the new data, which is what we have right here. So our http http.open. This is what prepares and configures the request before it leaves the browser. So it requires two main arguments. Number one is the HTTP method. In our case, we're making use of getting some instances. It could be post, it could be any other thing, it could be patch or delete or something else. So it could just be any HTTP method. And finally, the URL or file path on the server where the desired data is located. So these are the two arguments that the open method expects. And moving on, the next thing is our XHTTP send method. So this method actually deploy the prepared request into the network. So for a get method, this method is typically called without any argument because the request parameter are already part of the URL. And our XHTML dot unload equals to this function. Listen for the successful delivery of the package. That, like I said earlier, that it opened the connection, so it's responsible for listening for the successful delivery of the package that you are trying to extract. So when the package is delivered through the send method, so the server replies, and so it will run the function that is inside that unload variable. So thereby converting the server's reply into the new visual content that can now be seen on the page, just as we are seeing this Lorem Ipsum on our page when this button is. So this is how you can make use of the open and send method with our XML HTTP request in JavaScript.